Okay.
All right, we are back with Alba, and it's time for Q&A. And so there's a few ways that you guys can do this if you want. Obviously, I've always got a million questions, but I get tired of hearing my own voice. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. So either just put your question in the chat, type it in, and I'll read it, or just say, hey, I want to talk, or I want to come on the video, and I will just make that happen. So Jay's first question, and Jay, maybe you can elaborate on that, or if you want to be promoted, I'll just have you share with Alba your specific question. But just to get you started here, he just says, I love what you're talking about. What should I do next? So I don't know if you can answer that without more info from Jay.
Yes, I need more information. Next what?
Jay, do you want to jump on here? And I feel like I should just promote him and put him on the spot. Hopefully he's still there. Jay, are you still there? All right. So first step that we're talking about, I want to go back to your amplified influence system: connect, impress, succeed. Where do you see that most people are struggling in that system?
Sorry, can you repeat the first part?
What's that?
Can you repeat the first part of the
sure.
question?
I'm going back to your system. You had this 3-step system.
Yes.
And maybe I got it wrong, but I did write down connect, impress, and then succeed or implement.
Yes.
I'm curious, where do most people need the most work?
Connect, for sure.
And you're talking about connecting with themselves, right?
Yes, yeah, with themselves and with how they want to show up, and with that improved, empowered, clear version of themselves. So most people actually will need clarity as to exactly where they're going to, or they need more confidence to decide to show up, as we spoke before, even though they're shy or introvert, or they don't feel so comfortable being so visible. Really reassessing the values actually is quite interesting, because most people who is in business haven't worked in the values like for so many hours. But it's unbelievable when you reassess your definition of success, how most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, people values changes because they realize they've been valuing things in life that were more for the society of the family, that they're authentic values. So as I said, that part of really reconnecting and looking at themselves with a completely different lens, being willing and brave to go to part of their life that they don't necessarily want to go, to really find new depths of understanding about themselves, is super important. Like people don't buy that part, but as soon as we start working, and they actually, some of them fight it. I don't want to do that part of the job. But as soon as we start working through that, it's like, I so needed this. I was so unclear about who I was and what's actually important for me and what I wanted to take my business. So,
well, and we got a few more questions coming in the Q&A. I don't know if you can see them. I'll read them to you. But before we do that, I just want to, something that you just said there. What about the folks that are sort of, are feeling like, I want to reflect my life story, but my life story has a fair amount of pain in it. And I don't know that I'm ready, even though I want to. I think it's important for people to connect in that way, but how do you navigate sort of those waters where people are hesitant to do that because they're not sure, like you said, they maybe given the agency over to somebody else to kind of control their reaction, but people aren't quite ready because they're a little scared of going public with some of the parts of their story.
Absolutely. And that is such a common thing. And I think we all don't realize how much all of us have so much pain in our past in one way or another, for one reason or another. And you don't need to go and communicate it if that is not what feels comfortable to you. But what you can do is share lessons without having to speak about the problem. But sharing the lessons, you can simply say something like, in a difficult time in my life, I learned this, this, and this. And that actually makes you very real without having to go deep into the wounds. For example, I have a client who has lost his son when he was 2. And that was like 40 years ago. And that's such a sore spot for him, even now, as you can imagine. I said he was so worried because he felt that has defined me. And I said to him, you don't need to share it. You can share having lost somebody really important to me without having to go into the has taught me X, Y, and Z. And you can share that part of you. And then actually, as working through that, he came to the realization that he actually wanted to share that. So share the lesson, share, because as I said, the other thing is, one thing there is like, we all think when we look at people, and now with social media, that everybody has, and excuse me, their shit together. We don't. Nobody does.
Right.
And actually, it's just by realizing that we all have things that are not working so well. And when you actually are brave enough to share it, you will be overwhelmed and surprised by how everybody comes up and share their vulnerability as well. So vulnerability is such a beautiful thing. You can choose to be as vulnerable or as little vulnerable as you feel comfortable with.
I love that. So Jay, I got one question for you. If you want to just talk live, let me know. I'm going to take Steve's question first, and then we'll come back to you, Jay. Just let me know if you want to go live or just do what you chatted there. But you talked about not everybody has their stuff together. Well, there's one human I know that does. His name is Steve Stegner, and he's on the. He just sent a question in. He says with he's got it all together. But he says with the USA being fairly shut down, unlike Australia. How do we increase our personal brand identity when you can't really get face-to-face with people?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it works exactly the same online, and everything that I'm speaking about, I apply to my personal interactions, but even more so to my online world. So there's so many ways, and depending on which platform you choose to go, mine is LinkedIn. It's like the biggest platform. I'm visible. So what I do is I am consistently posting there 3 to 4 times a week. I am engaging with people who comment on my posts. I am engaging with people who post there. And I make a combination of videos and posts where I share knowledge and I share my personality. So it's exactly the same. And it's probably even easier to be visible in that sense that actually in person for some people. So it's the same. Choose your strategy, which is the platform you use, and how do you share your knowledge and your personality on a consistent way, and you connect with others, because LinkedIn is a great platform. It's networking online. So at the moment, I would say last year was the biggest year for LinkedIn ever. And personally for me, even though I'm in Australia, I work with people all over the world. So I connected probably with all the people I would have connected if COVID wasn't happening. So show up, share.
As a follow-up to that, what about the folks that are saying, you know, I love meeting in person because I'm not super technologically advanced. You know, so the idea of creating videos and doing those sorts of things, you know, even though they're smart enough to do it, they're just like, they haven't done it, it's uncomfortable, and it just feels like overwhelming to them. What do you know, would you recommend that there's certain resources say it again?
You know what? Do a post. If you like, showing up in video is the easiest way to engage, but I will never get somebody to start with videos if that's not the way they feel comfortable. Like, it's so easy to just turn on your phone and do a video these days and go live. But if that is not your thing and you feel overwhelmed by just connecting your headphones and showing up live with some good light, just do posts. Put a photo either of you or something that relates to it and share your content. Do not get the second guessing of not having it all perfect stop you from showing up. Show up, and then you will be able to connect with people.
I love it.
As simple as that. Stop overthinking. The overthinking is not going to lay you anywhere.
Well, I forget what you said. Done is better than perfect. Is that what you said earlier?
Exactly. Done is better than perfect. Show up. Made a mistake. English is my second language. If I stop second guessing myself because I am going to make a mistake with what I say, imagine where I would be. Nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just, you just show up. And I always mention, I didn't mention it today, I'm from Colombia. This is my second language. Obviously, you can hear the accent. I might make mistakes, but if you are struggling to understand, let me know. Otherwise, people, generally speaking, understand what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, we almost cut you off after 10 minutes because you made one mistake, and I was going to, that's it. That's the end of the show.
Go. So there you go. It's kind of like, go on and show up. And I'm a public speaker on a second language where I have a strong accent. Is work. Actually, I decided and I chose to own that, and it's the biggest differentiator I have. If you have heard me speaking, you most likely won't forget me because of all those things. My name is different, my accent. So there you go. Changing all those things that we can get so scared about into a positive as part of your brand is who I am. I don't want to change that I'm Colombian and I have an accent. I love it.
Yeah, and I love that idea. Just own it. Just own it. I'm preaching to somebody who needs to hear it myself. I need to hear those same things. So I'm gonna put Jay on so he can actually talk to you and ask his questions that he has. Jay, are you on there now? I think you're muted right now. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello, Jay.
Hi, thank you. So I am a Steve Alba wannabe. I want to be a public speaker and all these things. So I am loving this. Very timely. So I wonder if I could even sneak in two questions, but my question, as you saw, was just kind of a, hey, being a big reader and like that, is there anything I can do to deep dive into this subject a little bit that you would recommend? And then I thought, as I listened to you talk a little more here, if you're able, curious now how you kind of discovered all this and have found out all the things that you're sharing with us today.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So to the book, let me think about that. One specific for that doesn't come to mind now, but I'll think now. And if I don't think by the end of the chat, I'll get back to you with that. With mine and my story, it's actually, it's really funny because I'll give you the super short one. I was challenged with self-confidence and self-belief all of my life growing up. I never felt I could fit in. I felt different. And I had a very challenging relationship with my parents, and I was bullied at school. But inside of me, my soul was extrovert, wanted to show up, wanted to talk. So I live with a conflict of who I wanted to be and who I could feel I could be. So fast forwarding into my life, I did all what my family and my society expected me to do, was going to school, be an engineer like my sisters, get a good job, do the whole thing. Then I fell in love. I came to Australia. I set myself free from expectations of society and family. And I realized I had lost passion for what I was doing. And I went and looked into my heart. What have I always loved doing? Talking. What have I always loved doing? Helping people look their best, feel the best. I went into my own personal story. What had been my biggest challenge in life? Confidence, self-belief. And my own personal story and the challenges and how I have overcome them to a certain extent were there in front of me. And they showed me what I should be speaking about, learning about, and teaching about. And one thing led to another. I started working with image only, the external part of the visual impression. I felt it was a disconnect from what I actually experienced was valuable. Then I got invited to start doing speaking here and there, and I loved it. And as I said, I just allowed my personal story show me the path. And I also chose to become my best version and go deeper into understanding and owning who I am.
That's so good. So, Jay, do you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
Nope, just thank you.
Actually, now it came to me.
I was going to say, you got like 30 books behind her. There's got to be something there that's worthy.
Yes, yeah. So this one is a really cool one to get more into alignment and owning who you are. And it's called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. It's a brilliant book that explains how we all as human beings, we have a part of us that we love and a part of us that we dislike or disown. And it's only when we allow to see ourselves as a whole, dark and light, parts of us, that we can really find the answers. So it's quite deep, kind of the book, but in a fun way. It's very easy to read. But yeah, that will be a good one for you to just allow yourself to ask some questions and find at a deeper level, who are you and what makes you you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I know earlier today, I was on a call doing a mastermind with a couple of people that are part of nonprofits. They're leading nonprofits, and I told them about our conversation. They're like, "Oh, I can't be there," but I'd really be curious. Her answer, especially for like nonprofit leaders, is there anything different when it comes to a nonprofit leader as it would for a business leader or any other type of public figure that they should be considering when they're talking about personal brand?
Not necessarily, because then again, it's one individual, it's one human being wanting to connect with one or many. So I think it's just remembering that use your story, share your concepts and your knowledge through stories, especially with a nonprofit. There's great stories to be shared there. Yeah. So even more so that people will just really connect with those. Make sure what you do and what you stand for is clearly expressed. I think that's pretty much it for everybody. And that will be the foundation of creating that personal brand. Differentiate yourself. And actually, I heard this analogy, I'll share it now because it's really valuable here, of the iceberg and how little of the iceberg there is on top of the water. That is usually what people share about themselves. That tiny little bit that we all get to see intends to be the perfect, glossy side of us. But what is under the water is what we choose not to share. And that's where the gift, the gold is. The parts of you, the challenges, the experiences that you have. So how can you bring more from under the water into the surface in a way that feels aligned and authentic? That is the key of differentiating yourself through your personal branding, your stories.
And it's our stories, but it's also sort of allowing our story to be part of the other story that we're telling, right? I think sometimes I think we get caught in this trap of, okay, well now I'm going to tell a story about this this food shelf situation because I lead that nonprofit, and now over here I'm going to tell a story about me going to my family reunion, and okay, now I'm going to tell a story about this, and we kind of go back and forth. What I'm hearing from you is it's just integrated, right? It's our personal brand shining through no matter what the story or content is that we're providing.
Exactly. And as I said, this is not about you having to say what you're eating for dinner, not at all. Right. It's more like, for example, to give you a specific example, if I'm going to talk about differentiation, and then I give some concepts about differentiation, I throw the story of I am different because in Australia, I'm Colombian. I sound different. My name is different. So I'm throwing the story of I'm Colombian in a concept that relates to my business. It's not that I'm going to share I'm eating this just for the sake of it. Or if I'm sharing a story of my challenges when I was growing up, I share it because I said, well, if I was scared of being me, now with the work I do, I share this with others because it was my challenge. I understand you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like how the story relates to what you're talking about, as opposed to a random fact about you that is not linked to whatever topic you speak. Even though I do speak about my dog with no, sometimes I do share the lessons of your personal branding from your dog. But sometimes you do want to share. It's kind of like pick 4 things you want people to know you about your personal life. In my case, for example, is that I am Colombian, that I live in Australia, that I had a challenging challenge life in self-confidence and self-belief, that I have a husband and a dog, and that I am an absolutely lover of dancing and music. So, you know what I mean? There's nothing too personal there. You can go as deep as you can, but it's just facts. Then the rest of my content, another 10 topics, are my pillars and my system and stories, case studies. So it's kind of like a little bit of a balance, 4 to 10 to say something.
Well, I think if you don't mind, you can just follow me around all day, or I can follow you around all day, and you can just tell me what to say when, because this is fantastic. I'm curious. I know, shout out to the North 65 Chamber of Commerce. They're represented on the phone here as well on the call. And chambers of commerce are interesting to me because they have all of these small businesses and sometimes nonprofits that are they're members of this one group that come together and they say, okay, we want to be resourced as small businesses in this one community. And so they're individual small businesses, yet they have this collective, effort to try to create vibrancy in their community. And then you got the chamber that's responsible for resourcing them and all of that. I'm kind of curious, like your perspective on how that might look for groups of businesses or groups of business leaders. So, each one could individually have their own brand and they each have their own products, but how do we roll that up? Because that's something that we do too, is we work in communities and we try to get the community itself, sort of, a non-person entity, to have an identity, to have a brand. And so I'm curious your perspectives on that. How about, when it's a collection of people that are individuals that want to roll up?
Absolutely. And it applies the same of how your personal brand fits with a business brand when people work for bigger companies. So it works exactly the same. You as an individual will always have and will want to develop your personal brand. But then how do all individuals fit in, let's say, this small business that is a conjunction business? So as a business, you need to have a business brand. Then again, what are your values? It kind of like similar to the mission and vision, but more like what are the values? And every individual needs to be sure that their personal values fit with the value of the business, and how do they want to be perceived as a business, as an entity. So then again, it will come there, collaboration, and how can you make that as part of the interactions you have as an individual, you make sure you are leaving those brand words throughout your interactions. So when you get together, when you are communicating, or when you are representing that business as opposed to your personal business.
And so
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's good. And my mind is spinning because I got like 3 tangential questions off of that. One of which is, as we talk to small business owners that are, we talked about this a little bit, but sort of in the role of a chamber, or the role that we have where we have a number of small businesses and they're all kind of like, yeah, whatever. What is that linchpin thing? Like, if they were to say, what difference would that make? Because what I'm hearing is, and I'm a big fan. I buy into it. I'm there. But I think a lot of them are talking about like the bottom line. So what difference would it make to them if they're kind of pushing back, or if we're looking at their messaging and going, boy, it's just sort of, it's all content. There's no heart here at all. And we say, hey, I think we should put some heart in here, some personal brand. Where are we trying to go with that thing? What is that initial response when they kind of push back and say, I don't have time to think about that? Like, what they want to know what the bottom line is. How is personal brand, incorporation going to help them make more money or work less hours?
Well, it is the same. And it's the same with individuals. Like it's an investment on you as a company, as an individual, showing up, connecting with more people. As you, and the best answer of all that I think people do get interested with that, when you create trust, when you create an authentic, genuine, connecting brand, you increase your levels of trust. Trusted brands are more successful and get to charge more for their services. Think of Apple, and I always like using the Apple example. Like it or not, we all know who they are, what they stand for, and what we can expect out of the products. Hence, they just launch whatever. They just release any product, and they sold out before we even do it. People queue for days, and it's because they have created trust. So that's what happens as an organization, a group of people, or even as an individual. You create that level of trust, where you're recognized, when you just not only have a great product, but you connect with people on an emotional level, you establish yourself, you stand out from the rest, from the competition. You will attract more people to come to you. As a result, you will have more business, more money, more return on your investment, less time wasted not knowing how to portray yourself here or there. So it saves you time, and it brings you more money, more success, more fulfillment, more aligned results. So yeah. I hope that gets people curious, at least.
That's good. Yeah. And I'll close up here unless there's any other questions. One more, you talked about the alignment piece. And I think that's a very, I kind of went down the money road, because that's where a lot of the business owners are ultimately going to say, well, what's my bottom line? But
show me the money.
but what's the value of living a life aligned? What's the value of knowing yourself to the core, of allowing those core elements to emerge out, and so that you are known, whether that's risky, right? You're being vulnerable, but talk a little bit about that, just the personal fulfillment that could come from living a congruent life where you know yourself, and you're not pretending you're somebody else for business purposes or for employment purposes or for nonprofits, or you just are who you are, and you're owning it, like you said. What's the life value of something like that?
Well, as I said before, imagine like the gaps that you have in your energy field, on your way of thinking, or your way of behaving, because you're just always either saying yes when you mean no, or doing things that don't feel like you are, second guessing, being paralyzed. You are wasting so much energy. There's the levels of stress go high. Your body is running in cortisol and anxiety. You can get sick. Your relationships get affected. Like, the consequences of living a life that is not in alignment are massive. And the biggest one of all, that to me is like super important, is living an unfulfilled life. And I am all for extraordinary lives, and whatever it takes, I'm going to grow, and I'm going to dig, and I'm going to go to the dark places I need to go to find the answers. Because when you really allow yourself to be you, and this has been said by someone who hated who she was for probably almost 30 years of my life. So I know what I'm talking about. And for the last 13, I'm more like, I kind of like who I am with all the bits and pieces. It's like a new life has come inside of me. And then my relationships have grown, and I am divorced, and I am in a relationship that is fulfilling. My business is who I am. I don't feel I'm working when I'm working with my clients. I attract people who is in alignment with what I preach and teach. My friendships are genuine and real. Less friends, more real. My relationship with my family has been reestablished. I have the best relationship I've ever had with my parents that I actually didn't have before. And everything I do feels more bright, and I am excited for the future. I have clarity of where I'm going, and when I am asked anything, my decisions comes like this. It's a yes and no, and I make decisions quickly, like true leaders should be doing it, as opposed to the second guessing and the polarizing. Is it this? Obviously I have bad days or months like any other person, but my north is more clear. And as in the GPS, when that north is so clear, then you can move forward in a more peaceful, calm, grounded center. You feel you are living your purpose. That word that sounds sometimes so cheesy as well. But yeah, I feel my life has a meaning.
Well, I have two comments for you. One, I don't know how you ever could be an inspirational speaker. I don't know how that ever works. I don't see it. No, that was amazing. I love it. The second one is, why is it every time I meet somebody from Colombia, I want to be their best friend? Like, you guys are so amazing. You're just fun and you're full of life. And I don't know if that's everybody or not, but everybody I've met from Colombia is just like, I want to be their best friend. So thank you for the energy. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for the wisdom that you brought. I think everybody here is going, okay, now I see why Steve loves this woman. Fantastic stuff. For the folks that maybe didn't catch the podcast, the webinar piece, they're just listening to the Q&A. How do they reach you? albagomez.au, right?
albagomez.com.au.
.com.au, of course, yes. So, even though you're picking up on the Colombian accent, it's Australia, people.
It's
albagomez.com.au, or reach out to me. Any final words that you'd like to share?
I guess don't overthink your personal brand. Do realize that everybody has a personal brand, either if you are developed or amplified or not. And for me, developing your personal brand will always create massive returns and results to your bottom line, but it will allow you to have fulfillment in your business. And as small business owners, we know it's not easy. This last year has been challenging in so many ways, but when you have allowed yourself to identify what is important to you, what is your direction, and you are making kind of like contributions to that direction and putting yourself out there, you're gonna have success in your life and in your business. So do not delay. And do not think this doesn't apply to you. Do spend some time investigating, reading, or working with somebody who can help you create that personal brand that we just, I dare to say, and I know I do because I've been doing this for 10 years, it would change your life, working on your personal brand.
And you kind of hit on one thing. You said, we all have a personal brand. We have one. There people have perceptions of us. The question is, are we controlling that or not?
Exactly.
So this is
and I don't like controlling. Sorry, and I will just I don't like controlling because it's like, I like more. Are you actually letting people see the real, authentic, powerful you, or are you just leaving those perceptions to random facts that you might not even be aware how you're showing up on the internet or in person? So people think, I know I'm super confident. People see me as confident when actually people see them as arrogant, or you know what I mean? Not to get started again with the conversation.
No, here we go.
If you have a name, you have a personal brand.
Yeah.
The more you can, know who are you coming across and own who you are and show up. Love
it. All right. I feel like I should drop the mic. Standing ovation, something. But Alba, thank you so much for jumping on here for this whole time. Absolute pleasure, of course. Great information. Reach out to her. Hopefully we'll get a few folks connected with you. And you're obviously welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much, everybody. And as I said, I'm more than happy to chat and help you get some strategy in place for your personal brand. So thank you again, Steve, for having me. And have a great evening, you guys.
All right. Take care.